Is the SHP9600 an upgrade over the 9500? Is the increase in price worth the investment? Did Philips actually improve on the shortcomings of the original? All these answers and more coming up. Greetings, comrade. Welcome aboard. Stuart Charles here, HomeStudioBasics.com, helping you make sound decisions leading to a beautiful audio experience that will make you fall in love with music all over again. So, before we get started, all links to these products as well as any articles related will be down below in the description box. Check out my gear recommendations as well for most of my top picks all in one place. If you do purchase through one of my Drop or Amazon links, I will get a small kickback depending on where you live. Purchasing through my links is a great way to thank me for helping you make a sound decision. There are many other different ways that you can help support the blog and channel down below as well. Check out my recently updated portfolio website and store for some goodies. As always, your continued support means the world to me, so thank you. Now, let's discuss the Philips SHP9500 and compare it to the new 9600, shall we? Or 100 if you're white. Full disclosure, I own both of these headphones and use my own personal funds to pay for each. Let's start with build, which is much improved over the original 9500 if you can believe it. Right away you'll notice that the 9600 is more compact all around. With a slightly tighter clamp force, it feels quite incredible on your head. No longer does it feel like it's going to slide off. It's also a tad smaller and less bulky than the 9500. The fit is more snug like a bug in a rug this time, and even despite the cups being smaller in both length and width, there is still ample room for my big Dumbo-sized ears inside. Depth of the cups is about the same on both. Philips has brought back the exact same headband mechanism and padding, but this time around there are no windows. Instead, they've opted to improve the click adjustment. It's still numbered like the 9500, and not only is it easier to settle on a number appropriate for your head, but it actually holds its place this time. If you'll recall, the 9500 was a bit loosey-goosey in that regard, sometimes moving a bit too easily up and down and not really locking into position. The 9600 does. Aesthetically, Philips has removed their logo, all text, as well as a giant block R&L indicators, the latter being a point of contention amongst some audiophile snobs. Replacing those elements is a single gold ring around the grille, housing the same 50mm neodymium driver. I personally really like the new look. The same rugged plastic has returned, and the headphone cups swivel in the same way as the original 9500, ensuring that you're able to get a good fit on your noggin. You will notice the grille on the 9600 is a tad smaller, perhaps reducing a bit of air that was present in the 9500, making it a bit less of a fully open headphone. More on that in a bit. The detachable 3.5mm cable has returned, but this time around it feels more solid and robust at the business end. There seems to be a protective measure taken in looking at the grayish blue cap, a stark contrast to the rubbery, flimsier material inherent on the original 9500. The 9600 also comes with a more rugged looking and feeling snap-on 1/4-inch adapter, with a subtle but still noticeable grip towards the bottom. Instead of Philips engraved on the jack termination itself, it's now embossed, reading Philips on one side and SHP9600 on the other in a more readable way due to the better color matching. All in all, it seems like Philips has really honed in on small details with this newer iteration 9600, and it hasn't gone unnoticed. But are they comfortable? Absolutely. Both headphones are incredibly comfy, but I feel more secure with a 9600 on my head, if that makes sense. It doesn't want to slide around at all, and feels more like a headphone should feel. Clamp force is just right, like Goldilocks' porridge, and it's still incredibly comfy for long listening sessions, feeling mostly like air, but with a slightly tighter clamp force. The 9500, while feeling like complete air, did tend to move around more than I'd like, which was the trade-off. Again, the small attention to detail here from Philips is more than admirable. It's outright amazing that they would adjust and improve the fit that subtly. Now for the moment you've been anticipating. How do they sound in relation to one another though? Is a 9600 an actual upgrade? Did Philips improve the 9500's upper mid/low treble issues? Does the bass hit harder? Glad you asked, homie. Right off the bat, you'll notice that the 9600 has a bit more mid-bass emphasis, likely somewhere around 100 to 200 Hz. I also feel like it doesn't roll off nearly as much in the sub-bass regions. The kicker here, no pun intended, is that it adds slam without interfering with the other frequencies. This is something I was a bit worried about considering some of the things I've heard about the 9600 so far. But Philips has proven once again that they are adept at making headphones. It's truly astounding that a gigantic conglomerate again came out of nowhere and slapped us in the face with this product.
I'll go get it.
Jeez.
There's significantly more meat on this version of the headphone. It sounds fuller and more impactful, while still mostly retaining all of that incredible micro detail that the original 9500 provided in spades. The treble sizzle and brightness that many snobs complained about has been fixed for the most part, as it no longer sounds overly essy or bitey in most instances. I think this is very source dependent as well. Some songs still have that essiness, but to me that mostly boils down to how the track was recorded. The 9600 still mostly provides the same great experience as the 9500, but it feels more like a bass-oriented sound for sure. This will be fairly unanimous. The 9600 is a tad more claustrophobic, but still incredibly crisp and lively. It's hard to explain. It sometimes feels like it's trying to be and do too many things at once, but still works somehow. There isn't much to complain about at all, and I think that was the idea.
That's the idea, Raz. That's the attitude.
As alluded to in the build section, I think this in large part has to do with the smaller grills present. Technically and quite literally, the 9600 is simply not as open by design. There isn't as much air around the instruments, which is something you will clearly hear and feel in relation to the breezier, cooler 9500.
You cool, man? Like how?
To clarify, I was not one of those people clamoring for more bass. My impressions and synopsis of the 9500's sound have remained consistent for over 2 years since I first bought it in 2018. I haven't once wavered in my opinion or stance on it.
Go ahead, check the comments.
I'm glad Philips didn't butcher the headphone with an overly accentuated low end, so don't get me wrong. The bass is clearly deeper and weightier, but it doesn't feel out of line and doesn't cause the mids to sound recessed, pushed back, or lost. The same excellent mid-range fidelity has returned. Vocals and instruments still stand out, sounding very lively, intimate, and engaging. The bass just sometimes sounds a tad clammy or something, like it's trying a bit too hard, whereas the 9500s really didn't give a damn what you thought. That headphone had a confidence and swagger being exactly what it was. Keep in mind, for the 9600 this is a very minor nitpick, and I've noticed the bass settle in quite a bit the longer I listen. It hits harder but still sounds mad crispy. Of course, the debate rages on whether this is my brain becoming acclimated to the sound or if burn-in is a real thing. Honestly, I think it's a bit of both, and I've talked quite a bit about this with folks over the last few months. The notes may have not had as much impact on a 9500, but darn if they weren't incredibly articulate and crystal clear. As for the treble, I really appreciate the improvement that they made. It's more subdued and less obnoxious, like your bratty teenage son who's finally stopped smoking weed and eating Cheetos for breakfast.
The old man grabbed me and said, "Hey, smoke up, Johnny!"
The 9600 will most certainly appeal to a wider demographic of people. Cats who are more bass happy will undoubtedly love these. As a former bass head, I truly enjoy them quite a bit. If you can honestly put these on your head and tell me that you don't enjoy them, I'll eat my sock and my shoe. You'll get some of those same out of your head moments like you previously enjoyed with the 9500. But I do feel like the 9500's staging is a bit better overall. Both will do excellent with gaming and film, but I'd probably rely on the 9600 more so for film and mostly use the 9500 for gaming. The 9600 is going to fare extremely well for action movies with lots of explosions.
I know that ain't the bottom.
It's an intense but meaty sound that matches quite well with that particular cross-section of entertainment. Background instrumentation and subtlety is still there to a large extent, and you'll still be noticing a lot going on in songs that you may have been previously unaware of. One of the main perks of the audiophile sound for sure. This hallmark tradition in the line hasn't changed, much to my delight and likely yours as well. Genre-wise, the obvious is apparent. The 9600 will fare a bit better for bass-happier music. Hip-hop, R&B, EDM, and indie pop all sound phenomenal with these. There's an unmistakable slam that you're likely to become addicted to. With the 9500, there's more air and clarity, but at the expense of a somewhat more fatiguing high end and not as much meat on the bass. That said, do they need amplification or nah? Nah fam. The same highly efficient headphone with a low impedance is there. Both come in at 32 ohm and 102 decibel sensitivity, ensuring that most any mobile device will power them just fine. Still, I'd recommend an amp DAC for best results sound-wise. I listen to both with a wide array of setups. The Creative Sound Blaster X G6, the FIO K3, E10K, and K5 Pro, the Drop 6XX Signature Stack, the original IFI Zen, the IFI Hip DAC, the AudioQuest Dragonfly Red, and the Sound Blaster G3.
Don't overthink it though!
Speaking of setups, check out my store link in the description box below. I've got some great ideas for both of these headphones, and your support of the blog and channel is much appreciated. So, is the 9600 worth the investment? Is purchasing one a sound decision? I'd say so. The extra $45 or so that you'll spend has gone into improving the build and functionality while also fixing the treble and adding some weight to the low end. I've always said that I firmly believe a 9500's true value lies at around $200. The 9600 garners a similar sentiment. Sound-wise, the 9500 and the 9600 represent somewhat different flavors, but still bear a lot of the same general qualities. Which you go with depends on personal preference, really. If you already have a 9500 like I do, the 9600 is most certainly worth a listen, but
it's for you to decide. It's up to you.
As for me, I plan on keeping both of these wonderful headphones around. It feels like Philips tried to make a product that would appeal to both audiophiles and consumers alike. I think they did a fine job. Well, that's about it for today, my friend. Leave me some love down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content like this, and turn on bell notifications while you're at it. If you really like what I do here and you want to support the channel in a more personal way, hit that Patreon link down below and check out all the value I have to offer. Last but not least, don't forget to ask me about my grandchildren. Don't feed the troll, and most importantly, don't ever give up. Check. Review brought to you by Stu. Here's the coda. I'm nasty on the mic. Call me warm soda. Chopped up this beat real fine like cold produce. Steady in my veggies so I can focus on my David Copperfield. Y'all hocus pocus. A little loopy when I wrote this. Esoteric dopeness. Cultivating the will of a soldier. Fighting through the pain like Dooku. I told ya, sold you on my style. Snapping on cats like Private Pile. I get semi-wild every once in a while. 911 on the dial. Alone at the top with no rival. Dark is my world without a Bible. Without God's love there's no survival. So my mindset is tribal. Yeah, my mindset is tribal. Yeah, my mindset is tribal.
Such an idiot.
Let me see what your best move is.
I'll go get it.
Jeez.